We're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at the Diaspora, which is the Xindi-Insectoid ship. It was the prize ship for month 1 of the Temporal Cold War. And this one was one of my friends from his collection, so we're missing our tokens and our generic captain that came with it. But we'll get in and take a look at what we got. There we have our Xindi-Insectoid starship dial. It's a Xindi faction logo there if you haven't seen it before. There's our Xindi-Insectoid starship maneuver card. Extremely maneuverable ship. Got all the 2s and 3 hard turns in white. Got a 3 come about in there. It's the only red thing on the dial, which is kind of nice. There we have our name Diaspora. 3 attack, 2 agility, 3 hull, 2 shield. Pretty fair stats. 1 tech upgrade, 1 weapon upgrade, 1 crew upgrade for 20 points. Evasive, target lock, and battle stations for our actions. And our named ability is, during the roll attack dice step, if there's a battle station token beside your ship, you may discard that token to re-roll all your attack dice. So you get the option of taking the battle station action and using it as either a battle station to flip those battle stations to hits, or you can use it as basically a target lock for a re-roll. Really nice ability there. Let you see what you're going to roll first and then decide how you want to spend that token. Then we have our generic Xindi-Insectoid ship. You're losing 1 shield on there, and you're losing your crew slot on there for 18 points. Still a pretty nice stat line. I could definitely see people running a swarm of these. They're much more effective than previous swarm ships we've had. 1 shield kind of hurts them, but everything else is really nice on them. For captains, we have Insectoid Commander. I don't think they actually gave any names to any of the Insectoids in the show. Captain skill is 6, 1 elite talent for 4 points. When attacking, during the roll attack dice step, you may remove 1 token, either evasive or battle station, from beside your ship to roll +1 attack die for this attack. Kind of a trade-off on this one. If you spend your battle station to get a +1 attack die, sure, you bump up your attack, but then you lose the ability from the named ship to use it as a reroll or even the battle station ability on its own. I could see using the evasive if you think you're going to get shot at, somebody doesn't shoot at you, it comes your turn to shoot. You can spend that evasive and get the extra attack die, sure. But I think most of the time with a ship, you're going to be taking that battle station action just so you can get the choice between battle station or reroll, at least on the name version of the ship, which is probably the one that you're going to be using this captain on. For our elite talent, we have Neurotoxin, 5 points. If an upgrade on your ship is affected by an opposing ship, you may discard this card to disable the captain and every crew upgrade on the opposing ship. Nice way to deter someone from trying to use something that would disable or destroy one of your upgrades. They really have to think if it's worth them disabling their captain and their entire crew to do that, especially if you're facing against something like Federation, who runs those really crew-heavy builds, or even Romulans, who have a couple crew that are very dependent for different combos and things. Can really make them think twice about if they want to try to affect one of your upgrades for that cost if you have this on board. For crew, we have Insectoid Rifleman, 5 points. As an action, if your ship is not cloaked, disable all your remaining shields and target a ship at range 1 to 2 that's not cloaked and has no active shields. Discard this card to disable all crew upgrades on the target ship and place an auxiliary token beside that ship. Really nice. It does take an action, but has so many uses, especially the fact that they're not unique, so you can run multiples. It'd be interesting to throw these on a bunch of different ships and have them all go off at the same time. You could disable your entire enemy fleet. The only downside I see is that the generic version of the ship, of course, doesn't have a crew slot, so you can only take it on the named one. But I'm sure some of the other Xindi ships will have crew slots on them, and you can throw them on there as well. But definitely an interesting card. 5-point discard and an action. Kind of a high cost, but for what it can do, especially against any crew-heavy builds, giving them the auxiliary power token and disabling their entire crew is definitely a very detrimental effect and worth the cost in the right situation. For weapon upgrades, we have pulse-firing particle cannon, 4 points, attack value of 3, range 1 to 3. Disable this card to perform the attack. You can only fire this from your forward firing arc. Once per round, if this attack hits, you may immediately make an additional attack with this weapon against the same target with half the dice rounded down. This upgrade costs 5 extra points for any non-Xindi ships. It's an interesting upgrade. The 3 attack value is the same thing as your primary anyway, so you're not really gaining or losing anything there. But if you manage to hit, that ability to attack a second time, now it's half the dice rounded down, so with the main value you're only going to get 1, but depending on any other bonuses that you may have that may bump that number up, will definitely help. It's kind of a decent anti-fighter weapon. 2 shots, even at low dice, still have a chance of hurting fighters, especially when they're pretty healthy and they don't have those evasion dice yet. Other than that, it's pretty limited on its use. If you could fire it from a rear arc or outside your fire arc, it would be definitely a huge bonus, but for what it is, it's not terrible. For tech upgrades, we have Phase Deflector Pulse, 5 points. If your ship executes a maneuver that would cause its base to overlap another ship's base, after moving your ship backward along the template so it no longer overlaps, you may discard this card to immediately perform an additional 2 forward. If you do so, you do not lose your perform action step. This upgrade can only be purchased for a Xindi ship, and no ship can have more than 1. Basically, it's a counter to that whole if you run into somebody, you lose your action, and it pumps you back, especially depending on the maneuver that you pull. You may want to be on the other side of them. This will give you that extra 2 forward, which is plenty to get by even a large base, unless you hit it like corner to corner. And then you still get to perform your action step. 5-point discard is pretty steep for the situational option that you have to run into somebody for this to even be effective. I'm not sure I would actually take this upgrade, but it is nice to have out there as an option. This pack, of course, comes with our additional rules card for the Xindi faction. Shows where the Xindi faction falls in along the other initiative orders. They go right in between the Kazon and the Bajorans. Pretty much in the middle of the list. Not too high, not too low. There you have our base for the named Diaspora. It's that 90-degree front arc. No rear arc, but the maneuverability of the ship pretty much compensates for that. And there we have our generic Insectoid ship with the same 90-degree front, no rear. The model itself is really cool. I'm hoping the camera will pick up the really nice detail on it. Not a whole lot of paint. It's this grayish silver color with like a bluish tint to it. It's kind of interesting. It's not the same silver they use for the Federation ships. And then they have these blue highlights on there, which are nice. Lots more detail in the model that just isn't done anything with. If I had to complain about one thing, I would say that they look too clean and fresh. They could definitely use a wash to darken them down or some weathering effects to make them look used. They look brand new and pristine right off the assembly line. But definitely some interesting things you could do with a little bit of paint added on to really bring out the details that are there that they didn't do anything with. Overall, it's a really cool ship. I hate that they're putting new factions and things like this as OP prize ships. I'm sure eventually down the line, I think I've actually seen one listed on the release lists, that they are eventually going to come out for retail. But for now, the only way you can get a hold of these is OP prizes, which you have to win the OP to get, or are pretty pricey to pick up on the secondary market. Especially with a cheaper ship like this, where you want to run multiples of them, to get multiples is just a pain in the butt right now. And hopefully, once they come out for retail, the Xindi is going to be an interesting faction to see. For now, I think it's going to be pretty limited just due to the fact of how hard they are to get a hold of. Anyway, that's it for this video, and we'll see you in the next one.